So I want to welcome everybody to our December MRC Coordinator Training Webinar, with December's topic being our MRC-STTRONG projects. I also want to make sure and welcome our MRCIL board members who are in attendance today. So if you're here and you want to say hello in the chat, please do. Please know that anytime if anybody has any questions in regards to the Medical Reserve Corps of Illinois or the projects, you can either reach out to myself or Jeanette, which our contact will be on the end of the PowerPoint, or you can reach out to any of the board members, either at their individual emails or at the MRC Illinois Gmail email account. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we have a lot to discuss today. So we are going to have a quick overview of the STRONG Award, the 5 goals that the award covers, and then each topic under each goal, everything from plan templates to the workshops that are currently going on throughout the state. We've already had 2, to the sub-awards, including those of you who have already been awarded, to a recruitment campaign that's going to be coming up, and a potential statewide meeting to be held at the national conference. So just to recap, what is the STRONG Award? So the STRONG Award was a $50 million award available nationwide. The Medical Reserve Corps of Illinois was the only 501c3 awarded. And here in Illinois, you could only have one that applied for the state. So instead of the state applying, MRCIL applied themselves and they were awarded $2 million. That grant covers a 2-year project through May 2025. These 5 overall goals cover the 2-year project. It is bolster MRC planning, strengthen MRC's capacity and knowledge base, bolster MRC's capacity to respond and serve their communities, to build brand recognition of the MRC, strengthen the Medical Reserve Corps of Illinois, and then by extension, those local MRCs. So under goal 1, for bolster MRC planning, there are 3 different things that we're going to really drill down into for year 1. So for the MRC deployment plan template, so this will be a generalized deployment plan template that local MRC leaders can use to assist to deploy their volunteers. It's going to be designed to be easy to use by local MRC leaders. So for those that either don't have a deployment plan in place, you're not able to deploy your MRC locally during emergency events. You're not exactly sure how they can be requested to be deployed. This is how this deployment plan will be able to be used for you. This is to help to encourage and equip your MRC to be able to use your volunteers as needed. So many times we have units that get developed, but then how do I use them? How do I use them in an emergency? How can they be used? So it'll be 2 parts. It'll have the actual plan template that can be dropped in locally, and you can be able to just have that as a part of your already existing plans. And it's designed to be easily incorporated into the plans that you already have in place, or be adapted for those that don't have anything. As a part of that, it will also incorporate different plug-and-play procedures. Have a pre-deployment checklist, post-deployment checklist, volunteer event feedback, what went well, what didn't go so well, messaging templates, MRC request forms. So how does local individuals request your MRC, and then others as well. So the needs assessment. First, I want to thank those of you that participated in our needs assessment that was sent out, not only for the coordinators that sent out the needs assessment to the volunteers. We had over 240 responses to the volunteer needs assessment survey. And I also want to thank the coordinators that were able to complete the coordinator needs assessment. We had over 36 responses to that as well. Thank you very much for that. These responses to the needs assessment will help assist with the development of further training workshops, webinars such as this, plans and policies to be able to be incorporated throughout the state, and then a future 3-year improvement plan for the Medical Reserve Corps in Illinois. With that, there will be reports developed of these needs assessments, so you guys will actually be able to see the results. It can be used for future planning throughout MRCIL, be used for future planning throughout the state, and then you can be able to use the results in there for potential future funding opportunities. Once it's published, all of you will be able to see both plans, both analyses, and be able to see those for all leaders throughout the state, and even be able to share those analyses with your volunteers. So a standardized training plan template. So one of the things that will come out of the needs assessment will be a standardized training plan. So you noticed one of the questions, several of the questions that came out of the needs assessment were different training opportunities, base training, the top 5 trainings that new volunteers should take, seasoned volunteers should take. This is why. This would help show the direction in which MRCs in Illinois would like to train to stay current. How could MRCs work together? We do really well training within our own units, but how can we help respond across jurisdictional lines? How can we help one another? It would help MRCs on what training would be needed for deployment outside of their jurisdiction and even outside of the state, potentially in the future. So for Goal 2 topics, Goal 2, as a reminder, is to strengthen the MRC's capacity and knowledge base. This covers the remarkable training workshops, the an MRC 101 training, and then monthly virtual training for the coordinators. So as you can see, photographed at the top here is a picture from our training workshop in Bolingbrook. And then down here at the bottom is a picture of our training workshop held in Rockford. So these are designed as a free training opportunity to assist coordinators in providing training for their volunteers. They're in-person trainings, which is nice to have in-person training again, to new volunteers, to seasoned volunteers who may need a refresher or just want to be able to train in person again, to provide a networking opportunity for MRC units that may not have met each other in the past, to provide a recruitment opportunity for new potential volunteers, and to help improve community resiliency, because not only have we opened these up to all of the MRC units across the state, we've also opened them up to Red Cross volunteers, CERT volunteers, search and rescue volunteers, and a lot of other organizations to help just improve that whole community resiliency. So for this year, we have a simplified agenda. Everybody is training together. These are our training topics. So for our first training topic, we have the Illinois Search and Rescue Council that is talking on how the MRC can work together with them. This helps give a basic understanding of what the Illinois Search and Rescue Council is and does, and it discusses what they do and how they can be involved with the MRC, and in things as simple as how they can help on a search and help to be involved in things like responder rehab. So let's put the pep into your step. Communicating with energy and sidestepping vampires is a very interactive training for the workshop. It helps participants discuss communication behaviors and help to act as do they act as an energizer or do they act as someone that can potentially drain when they work in groups or teams? It discusses on how they can use supportive communication to help to inspire other people instead of defensive communication that can drain. So for moulage makeup and injury simulation, this session helps to teach the participant to improve the realism and efficacy for first response training by learning how to simulate various injuries that they may encounter, like bruises, scrapes, lacerations, bullet wounds, and burns. It helps make it more real. So for inclusive emergency management, this session helps to discuss barriers and issues faced by people with access and functional needs and helps to incorporate all-inclusive strategies for integrating individuals and their needs in emergency-related services. For You Are the Helping to Help Arrives, Assert Outlook. This particular session takes a look at field triage and field first aid and helps to give that particular CERT outlook and working with MRC. And the last session in this particular training workshop, an MRC's role in a family assistance center or multi-agency resource center. This helps to show how MRCs are a crucial part of a family assistance center or a MARC. This session will help the participant learn more on how to work with one another and how the MRC fits in with those Red Cross functions. So we did plan to host 6 for this particular year. When I say year, I mean until May of 2024. These are the last 4. We have one coming up in January in Collinsville, February in Champaign, March in Macomb, and April in Carbondale, because we're spreading it out throughout the entire state. If at any time you guys have any questions, I want you to make sure that you can type it into the chat. We are monitoring the chat to be able to answer those questions for you. And if for any reason we can't answer during the chat, we'll make sure and answer either during the webinar or at the end. So for the MRC 101 training, this will be designed for new MRC volunteers as an MRC orientation. It'll be a computer-based training, but we'll also have a locally hostable training for MRC coordinators. So a lot of MRC coordinators do have an MRC orientation. However, this was identified as one of the priorities by a lot of local coordinators that they don't have a generalized orientation. They're able to onboard volunteers, and then what? Volunteers may know about the MRC, they may not know about the MRC. This is to be able to help with that. This is also able to be help to provide standardization for existing and new units. It helps new coordinators. As a lot of us know, as an MRC coordinator, that's one of several hats that we wear. So this training is to be able to help with that as well. And it helps to give the background and base for MRC and then how it works here in the state of Illinois. So for monthly virtual trainings here for the coordinators, these trainings will be given based on feedback provided in the coordinator needs assessment. It'll be organized by ISC, not always, it won't always be ISC presenting. We'll be able to bring in presenters on a wide variety of topics, such as MRC recruitment, MRC retention, grant writing, transition planning, meaning from one MRC coordinator to the next, and much, much more. And they're to be held the 3rd Thursday of the month at 10 o'clock. So for goal 3 topics, to bolster MRC's capacity to respond and serve their communities, we have 4 particular topics under this: the background check and volunteer protections, project-specific subawards, new MRC subawards, and then emergency go bag kits. So for background checks and volunteer protections, Through the Strong Award, funds have been made available to all MRC units that are designed for specifically designed for new volunteers, strike team volunteers, and those being sent on potential deployment. They're available for up to $120 for background checks and $650 for volunteer protections. The process to apply for those: the unit themselves would purchase either the background checks or volunteer protections. They would submit the reimbursement form with the necessary receipts, and then MRCIL would review the paperwork and then reimburse up the MRC unit $120 for the background checks and then $650 for the volunteer protections. So if you have not had the opportunity to see these forms, this is what the form looks like. It is blue for background checks. It is red for the volunteer protections. It is the same form, different amount for the volunteer protections here. It is a fillable form that is easily downloadable. The information collected on this form is required for the grant, which is why here under volunteer categorization, you can see that it asks, are you doing it for new volunteers, strike team volunteers, or volunteer deployment? When you submit this form, and you can email it in to mrcillinois@gmail.com. When you submit this form, it must be submitted with the receipt of payment, so we know that it's been purchased. And what we're asking is that all interested parties must submit for reimbursement no later than April 15th, just because the first year grant closes on May 31st. So that gives MRCIL time to be able to approve and then submit for reimbursement. At the very beginning of all of this, thinking back, a lot of you submitted on a background check volunteer protection form. I want to thank those of you that took the time to provide information on that. These are the vendors submitted by local MRC leaders. This is not an all-inclusive list. So as you see here, there's a list of vendors that provide background checks or that were submitted to provide background checks that local MRCs used. And then these down at the bottom were submitted that they were used for volunteer protections. Like I stated, these were submitted by local MRC leaders. This is not an all-inclusive list, but it is a list that was submitted, and we wanted to make sure and share that list. So project-specific subawards. So one of the things we definitely wanted to make sure and focus on, so no, this is not the ORA, that is completely separate. This is something specific to MRCIL. So for the award overview here, this award focuses on areas that align with ASPR's priorities and MRC-STTRONG goals and objectives. The purpose of this is to address community needs. And we want to be able to share results within the MRC network within Illinois and then throughout the nation. And when you apply, you have to choose a minimum of one focus area. The focus areas here are listed as underserved areas and populations, at-risk individuals, health equity, severe disaster areas, workforce growth, bolster public-private partnerships, strike teams, and then community resilience for Indigenous tribes. So for this $5,000 subaward, this is the timeline that was released. The request for applications was released on September 26th. The application submissions begin on October 30th. The applications, this is a rolling award. There is no strong deadline, except the applications will close on February 5th. My apologies for the typo. So like I said, this is a rolling award, meaning the first 42 eligible MRC units will be awarded as long as they meet the requirements and are approved by the board. The awards will be dispersed for that year and then it'll close. So if we have units that all are awarded before this date, they'll close, or if they're not all awarded, it'll still close on February 5th. As far as reporting requirements, there will be a request for a midterm report halfway through your project period. So halfway through your report on your timeline, and then a final request for a report will be on May 31st, the end of that particular grant year. So allowable expenses. So a lot of these are common questions for expenses all the time. So first and foremost, MRC logo uniforms are allowable. Office supplies are allowable. Educational materials are allowable. Thanks to a local MRC unit, which we'll highlight here in a little bit, COVID vaccine is an allowable expense. And then food is an allowable expense with definition here. So we going back and forth with a couple of the project officers. So this verbiage here, which all of these slides will be available as well as the recording. So food meals, generally food is not allowable unless it's light refreshments that are included under the venue rental, and then it is allowable. Now, one of the questions that came, well, what if we use our health department, EMA, or like a local partner that we don't rent? So outside caterers are allowable. So in this particular case, if you don't, quote, pay for rent of that particular building, yes, you're allowed to use that like outside caterer like Sam's or Kroger or something like that. However, the training has to be a full day, 8 hours, with light meal. Refreshment can be purchased per 8-hour working day, and ensure that the guidance is followed when purchasing food. Do note that 1 meal a day for full workshop must be related to the awarded project, with the primary purpose of dissemination of technical information beyond the recipient and is necessary for successful performance. So that is verbiage verbatim from the project officers that are overseeing this grant and from ASPR. As far as restrictions, so recipients of this grant, you cannot use the funds for research or clinical care. You cannot purchase furniture. You cannot use it for sterile needles, syringes for the purpose of injection of any illegal drug. So recipients, you can't use it for over 40% of administrative costs. So for salary and fringe benefits, it cannot be over 40% of your budget. You cannot advocate or promote gun control. You cannot use it for lobbying activities. A lot of this should sound familiar for those of you that have had grant writing experience. If not, a lot of this is typical of most grants. You cannot use it for fundraising. You can't use it for the purchase of vehicles or vehicle parts, for any construction, alteration, or renovation, or any promotional items or giveaways. So the awardees so far. So I just want to say congratulations to the units that have been awarded so far, including the unit that was awarded yesterday. So Madison County, their focus area was a strike team, with the title of their project being mental health first aid training. Monroe County, the focus area was a strike team, the title behavioral health strike team. St. Clair County, focus areas, at-risk individuals strike team, the title being community resilience through MRC unit strike team for functional needs and emergency planning. Douglas County, the focus area being strike team, the title rural radio communications network. South Central, focus areas, severe disaster areas, workforce growth, bolster public and private partnerships. The title is South Central Collaborative Training Initiative. And lastly, Skokie, focus areas, underserved populations, at-risk individuals, and health equity, homebound COVID vaccination, and opioid overdose pouches. Again, congratulations to those MRCs. So the new MRC subawards. This is a completely different award, not tied to that other subaward at all, and is available to 2 potential new units per year. It provides subawards to local agencies in areas of need without an existing MRC. Now, this is to help establish in an area that hasn't had an MRC in the past, or reestablish a registered MRC. So if they have been decommissioned over time and they want to reestablish, that would be great. This subaward is to help with that. This can be used to help provide support, training, administrative help, planning, needed supplies to help launch from the ground up. That's the point of this subaward. We want to encourage you guys, if you have a local community partner that's had an MRC in the past, that has a lot of interested volunteers because they had an MRC in the past, or you just know that it would be a really successful MRC in that area, to have them reach out to MRCIL or us, and we'll get that ball rolling. So emergency go bag kits. So as a part of goal 3, to assist in bolstering MRC units' capacity to respond, this grant is to seek to provide emergency go bag kits to each MRC. So they're not required to be accepted, but they would be shipped directly to your unit. Along with this would be the purchase and shipment of identifier vests. Again, they're not required to be accepted by your unit, but they would be directly shipped to you. This would be the type of vest that would be shipped. It would be a plain vest with an identifier pocket that on the front and the back that you can slip in your own identifier. That way there's no worry of any misinformation put on one side or the other. Like I said, you are not required to accept them, but they would be directly shipped to you. So goal 4 topics to build brand recognition. This is really exciting for those that have been in the MRC for a while. Brand recognition has been something we've wanted for a while. So the 2 topics here are media company recruitment campaign development, and then the redevelopment of a MRCIL website. So for the media company recruitment campaign development, we have partnered with a media company, and this media campaign will assist with brand recognition across the entire state of Illinois. This will be done by billboard creation and locations throughout the state, targeted social media marketing and management, including geolocating, video marketing production, brochure creation, printing, and shipping. So a general MRC brochure to be able to be printed and shipped to all local MRCs, and then digital ad creation. And then this recruitment campaign is set to run February through April. So the redevelopment of a MRCIL website. So for those of you that participated in the coordinator needs assessment, there was a section on that discussed the MRCIL website. Thank you for your feedback on that. We're currently in the process of redeveloping the website to make it more user-friendly for coordinators, volunteers, and new prospective volunteers. It'll be a one-stop shop for great resources for local units for training, planning, and policies, easily downloadable resources, have the ability for new volunteers to look for their local unit, and much, much more. Have easily externable links and easily refreshable things so that way the links work. Goal 5. Strengthen the MRC of Illinois and by extension, the local MRCs. So for this, the 2 topics here are support conferences throughout the state, and then MRCIL statewide meeting at the National MRC Conference. So support conferences throughout the state. Here, photographed off to the side is a pop-up banner that was designed and printed. We have 2 of them. One that is housed for the northern part of Illinois, one is housed for the southern part of Illinois to be able to be used at conferences. So MRCIL has been at these conferences for 2023, educating the public on the Medical Reserve Corps. So the Illinois Emergency Management Agency and Office of Homeland Security Training Summit in Springfield, In the Midst of Chaos in Tinley Park, Weathering the Storm in Marion, and the Whole Community Training Summit in Naperville. So for the MRCIL statewide meeting, it is our goal to have a meeting at the National MRC Conference. We'll provide administrative support to in-person MRCIL meetings to help coordinate, facilitate, and have in-person support. During this summit, we are hoping to be able to have a workshop meeting at the conference to be able to include an opportunity for MRC leaders to network, meet one another outside of just on the computer like this, and then for leaders to get to know one another. Not only for seasoned leaders to get to see one another again, but for new leaders to get to meet one another, and for new leaders to be able to meet seasoned leaders and to have that opportunity for mentorship. So, action items from you as an MRC coordinator. So, under goal 2, we really want to encourage you to share the information for the remarkable training workshops with your volunteers and other partners. Like I stated earlier, we have opened it up beyond MRC to include other community partners as well, because they are really good training workshops and an opportunity to not only share MRC information, but just to train with one another to improve community resiliency. For goal 3, if you're interested in the background check and volunteer protections reimbursement, make sure to submit the proper paperwork to the MRC Gmail account. And then I want you guys to really consider applying for that project specific subaward. It's a $5,000 subaward, and the application is available on the MRCIL website. For goal 4, here within the last couple of weeks, there was an email sent out to submit your photos and your stories for the new website and the media company. We really want you guys to be able to give current photos, current stories, and really highlight your MRC. And lastly, don't ever be afraid to ask questions. Don't ever be afraid to reach out. We want you guys to know that, we're there not only as the contractor, but MRCIL is there as well. Reach out through the Gmail account. So for those of you guys that may have not had an opportunity, believe it or not, for the feedback on the coordinator survey, there were a lot of individuals that didn't know that MRCIL had a website. So MRCIL's website is mrcillinois.org. And if you click on the button that's highlighted here in yellow, MRC Strong Projects, it'll bring you to this page. And on this page is listed the subaward, the background check and volunteer protections, and then the remarkable training workshops. So all of the MRC Strong projects are listed specifically on this page. And last but not least, just as a reminder, so for as far as ISC is concerned, Jeanette Tandas Johnson, she's the project manager for this grant, and then I am the lead planner. So if you guys have any questions at any time, you can always reach out to us.
Hey, Bethany, we have a few questions to go through. So the notification that you guys received about this coordinator is the same contact list that we have been using to send out announcements for all of these, good stuff that's been happening the last couple of months, and also all the offerings for the workshops and the subawards and the reimbursement. Some of you have let me know in the chat that you haven't seen any announcement. So we'll double check your email address. I would love it if you guys could check your spam, because if you did receive the announcement for this coordinator training, most likely you should have received the information about the other things. Now, the slides will be shared with you, and it will have the MRCIL website. I did put it in a chat as well if you need the MRCIL website, because we will keep updating that for any new information that we want to share with you or any offerings that we want to share with you. There are some questions about the emergency go bags and the vest. If you could go through just in general, I know we haven't chosen the go kits yet, but what are we thinking is going to be in it and how will they potentially receive it?
So the emergency go bags, there are a couple. They'll be designed as far as medical and non-medical, to have the board will actually go through. There's 3 different options. They're going to vote to see which one would be beneficial for the MRC units. There'll be one option. And as far as choosing whether or not you want them, it'll come in a jot form. If you want them, great. Put in your address, put in who to ship it to, the address you want it shipped to. So if you don't want it shipped to your health department, don't put your health department address in there. If you have a shipping and receiving address, put that address in there and that'll be delineated. And then there is a set amount, and I'll have to get in, I believe it's 10. And so those 10 bags would then be directly shipped to whatever address you put in the form. So it's just a set amount. So it's not, otherwise logistically it would be a nightmare to go amongst all 68 units.
Can you also explain the subaward rolling deadline?
So the subaward rolling deadline, so you can apply today, tomorrow. It goes until February 5th. So you can apply any day and from the time that it opens to the time that it closes. So it's constantly taking the applications, constantly being reviewed by us and then sent to the board. So the board has final approval. And then once the board approves it, you'll get your congratulatory letter. And then you'll get your contract, you'll sign it, the board will sign it, and then you'll get your disbursement. That's so that's hence the rolling award.
I think I asked all the questions that I did not answer myself. Was there any questions to the audience that was not addressed? Okay. I think that was it, Bethany.
If at any time you guys have any questions, anything that wasn't addressed on the webinar, anything that wasn't addressed in the chat, please feel free to reach out to myself, reach out to Jeanette, or you can reach out to the Gmail account if you have any questions for the board. So otherwise, this recording and the slides will be sent out. And do know, I remember Jeanette saying something about your emails. If your firewall blocks Gmail, please make sure to notify either myself or Jeanette so we can mark that accordingly, because the MRC email account is a Gmail account. So if the board is sending notifications out that way, that's probably why you didn't get it. So, all right, everybody have a wonderful rest of your day and a Merry Christmas. And if we don't talk to you before then, Happy New Year.
Bye, everyone. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.